Ryan, director of Tezlom, and I have a podcast today with Ryan White. He is the managing director of We Love Pets, which is a pet care providing franchise, which was founded, I found out about, from Joe. But I'll leave it at that and I'll let him explain. So please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about what your franchise is.
Well, there you are. Like Ryan, I'm Ryan White, managing director of We Love Pets. And yes, although I wasn't the founder, Jo was the founder, 2008, and she should take a lot of the plaudits for that. She'd done a great job in the corporate world, like most of our franchisees, fed up, everyday life, the constraints of employment, we all know what it's like. And then, I met Jo in 2014, and I think a pigeon just flew into the window. It wasn't down to We Love Pets, though. And, Jo actually brought the franchisees that she had. She had 6, and she brought them to the college and university that I was teaching.
Okay.
To get trained in animal care by me.
Mad.
So, because while she was doing what she was doing, I was in pet care doing something very different. I was teaching people how to be in pet care. And Jo was looking at someone who could not only understand business in pet care, but someone who understood animals.
Right, stop. How did you end up being a teacher in pet care? Go right back, mate. So let's start from the beginning. Where were you born?
Well, I was born in Cambridge.
Cambridge. Okay.
My family were animal mad. They moved from Cambridge to Wiltshire.
Yep.
Soon to then divorce.
Yep.
Which was, it was tough.
How old were you then that happened, mate?
I think I was about 7. But what transpires after that is very odd, and it's not going to be essential really on the podcast itself, but it's essential, I suppose. It's a bit of a story. My mother left a very honourable, honest, decent guy, my father, and I'm not biased. He's got his issues, and as an adult, I can see why she left him. He was animal mad. Any spare money he had, he spent on birds of prey, peregrine falcons and goshawks. Any spare time he spent with the birds of prey and the animals. We had so many animals growing up.
Is it like a farm, this, or?
He was a farmer, at the time.
Right.
He was a dairy farmer. So I could see, living in the middle of nowhere with not a very loving sort of guy, a very loving guy, but not outwardly.
Yeah.
She ended up leaving him and met my stepfather, who was a different sort of animal.
Did you live with mum or live with dad?
I lived with mum.
Live with mum.
So a lot of memories at that age were actually sadly erased. I can't remember them. But one thing I remember is the passion I had for animals.
Yeah.
And it was ridiculous.
Did your mum carry on with the animal thing, or did she have no animals, or did you?
No, she was always, her father brought her up in the countryside, so we've always been, around animals. When people say, how long have you worked with animals?
You say all your life.
By default, my whole life.
Yeah.
It's different when I turned professional. When I worked with animals professionally, that's a totally different kettle of fish, and I'm sure we'll cover that. But with regards to teaching, it's odd because I wasn't educated very well.
Right, okay.
I didn't conform at a young age.
No.
And sadly, my mum had to come into school from the age of 8 till I left primary school to teach me with the class because I wouldn't sit down. This was well before the days of you would be diagnosed with a situation that meant you can't learn mainstream.
Yeah.
I was disruptive, naughty, disrespectful, none of those things. And, that's not me just defending it. I was challenging because I challenged every single thing at school at 7. My mum said at 8 years old, I asked the teacher, how will this benefit me moving forward in my life when I pay bills, when I have my own family? I was 8 years old.
I love that.
And I realised at that point, I understand a totally different concept to life than a child because I was forced to grow up very quickly with my stepfather.
I was just going to say, like...
Yeah. He, I don't need to go into details. That man was a beast. Fortunately, he's no longer with us. And that's a godsend. He was, that's possibly for another time. He was an animal and he made us grow up very quickly.
Can I creep into that at all with you or not? Or?
He was seriously abusive.
Was it?
I went from a very loving home to understanding, swearing, controlling behaviour. to the extremes. I think he was
Do
untouchable.
you think that sort of like made you like have to sort of jump up and grow up a little bit, so to speak?
100%. Yeah, 100%. It actually, there's certain thing, and if he was alive today, I would look him in the eyes and I'd thank him, because he taught me to not be afraid of anything. Yeah. And I think the day he was worried was the day I looked him in the eyes and I just laughed and said, "You really are pathetic." Oh. I was 15. I left home at 15 because of it.
Was your mum still with him then?
Yes. She finally left him a year after I left. She didn't want to stay with him, through the threats of, "I will always know where your children are," that sort of guy. You know what it's like. Some people, you hear about it, and we're talking about it now because it does mould you for who you are.
Well, I actually do. Like, I'm 40, same age as you, and I've had kids myself, and I kind of only sort of in the last sort of few years, my little boy's 4 and 7. I think when you become a father, you start realising how much your childhood does impact your adulthood.
Oh yeah.
And the way you conduct yourself and what happens to you and your peers around you. You can see why they have them behaviours and what they end up doing in their life because of their families. And there's reasons behind a lot of things. I think there'll be some psychologists that tell us exactly that.
There's 100%, and I mean the thing is though, Ryan, like it carved me into who I am today, and I'm blessed now because I have a big heart that I was born with from my biological father. I have that resilience that I was forced into having from a young age. So when people say, "Oh, you can't do that," surely you can't do that. It's kind of like a red rag to a bull. I'm thinking, oh no, I'll do that, and with the power of my wife as well. There's no amount of water can put the fire out in our bellies. It's raging, and that's why, effectively. But teaching, going back to it, I dropped out of school. I had to be taught by my mum, effectively, because I was naughty.
So high school,
30% attendance. I was too busy watching the crows in the playground, working out how they interact with one another. And I can remember this one day where these crows were taking rubbish out of the bin, but they had to sort of pass each thing to one another, and I sort of learnt, they're corvids, and look at how intelligent they are working together. And that was probably the last lesson I sat in, because I just got up halfway through and thought, this is ridiculous. I've been offered a full-time job by somebody who I think is going to give me everything I need from love and affection, rather than my sort of home life at the time. So I dropped out of school, and they were the days, Ryan, whether it's right or wrong, where you could get a driving licence pretty quick. You look like something like Columbo in the photo, but it didn't matter because you could get in anywhere and you could drive about when you're 15 years old. You then mix with a different group of people who are adults, and you grow up fast. That moulded me into who I am today with regards to animals. I worked in a kennels, just a kennels, dog kennels. Well, how's that ever going to give me anything in life? Well, it was at an age where my main focus was understanding and learning canine behaviour. Well, I hit 16, and one of the sergeants that used to bring the police dogs in said, "I want Ryan to work for us in the assessment unit." Sadly, because it was within the police, they realised that I wasn't actually 19, I'd just turned 16. So I had to go on to a sort of a youth system, which was fine.
Was that like an apprenticeship type of thing?
Yeah, it was. And they took me under the wing, and they gave me serious responsibility.
Can I just stop you for a second?
Yeah.
So you left sort of already messing around at school.
Yeah.
So you were living with your mum and your stepdad at the time.
Yeah.
And then sort of you got a job in the kennels full time.
Yep, full time.
At that point there, doing a good job, enjoying that side of it.
Loved it.
And then the police approached you at this point.
Yeah, because we used to look at their sort of behavioural assessments, and it was sort of still working within the kennels, but I had more hands-on with all the police dogs.
It's mad, isn't it? How like I feel like you really technically minded around the animal side of it, but like really hated school and that side of it. Like, were you popular at school and stuff?
Yeah, I was in the football team, and I had lots of mates.
Lots of mates and stuff. So outgoing, loads of friends, all that type of stuff. But
when you're the clown, you know what it's like.
Yeah.
I like people. I used to my life at home. It was what it was. My life away from it was just such a release because I could be who I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And growing up really quickly, it would be like those jokes you see in Shrek. Okay for the kids, but the adults get it as well.
Yeah,
I had that great balance.
I like it.
So the parents would look at it and be like, I know where he's going with that, but I don't think he should be at that age.
Yeah.
But it was all about me, and that's who I am now. I like a good laugh.
Yeah.
The team will tell you, I love it. But
so
you know,
gone into police. So just go on, elaborate on the police thing. So
I didn't necessarily work for the police. I worked in the kennel still, but I worked a lot with all the police dogs. So I was moved sort of from the domestics to the police. And it was just talking to the sergeants there, the police dog handlers. They started asking me advice. Like a dog had been dropped off because it couldn't be looked after by the pet owner anymore, so they wanted to send it to the police. And I just made a comment one day and said, well, we know that's going to fail. And I can remember the sergeant said, why? I said, well, look at the stamp of it. It's a big black and gold, hairy German Shepherd, but the last 4 failed. He's like, do you know, no one's ever said that. I said, they fail because there's a certain type. They're good for the football matches, but we all know at football, if they went, Gucci goo, he'd wag his tail and be all over you.
Yeah.
It's a certain type of dog. And if that's not, if the last 4 haven't made it out of 4, the odds are this one won't make it.
Yeah.
You want the short coats. And we ended up changing the whole system and getting some really tasty dogs in. And they started sort of getting dogs that were specifically for that job. They're a tool. They're there to protect the handlers. You know, you can't have a big shaggy dog that looks scary, but when a knife's pulled out, they run a mile.
Yeah.
They got to help. So that was brilliant.
I find it fascinating this because I don't know loads about animals, even though I've got 2 dogs. I've had dogs all my life. But like your education's been your personal life at home, hasn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Like your education piece and that bit you've been interested in, and your hobby, so to speak, has been your education.
Yeah, totally. People say to me all the time, I look, you know, for my age, I look bloody bedraggled actually, because I don't sleep very often.
Yeah.
I just work. But actually, you're right. I mean, I look now and fast forward everything. You know, when I was in the kennels, there was a little market stall attached to it. This is just going to go everywhere now. And it was a Yorkshireman. Never met one before, and he taught me on the market stall everything. So I used to work with the dogs, and then all of a sudden, without knowing it, this is where the sales, the recruitment, the confidence comes into it. 13, 14 being put on a market stall, and your boss saying, right, crack on. Well, hold on, what, you mean counting money and stuff? He's like, customers to be served, to get on with it. You either get on with it or you get your bloody marching orders, sort it out. And that was that style back then. I thought, shit, I don't want to let them down. This family had taken me in.
Yeah.
So I just started on one market stall. And a few years went on. I was still working with the animals, but still having that sales sort of market stalls are a different kettle of fish. Market traders, they're an intelligent being, I tell you. You know, you see some characters, but they're bright as a button. And ultimately, they're stood on those market stalls. You've got to be able to sell, because people think what you're selling is shit compared to what's in the shops. It's not. It couldn't be the same. But some people perceive it. I ain't buying that crap from a market.
It's fairly tough business to be in, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think from an age group, but there's got to be a resilient piece. You've got to be brave. You've got to be able to talk to people. And if you aren't, you're going to get it knocked into you pretty quick.
Yeah, and he was a tight Yorkshireman. You know, and I loved him to bits looking back now, and I can remember him just chucking boxes at me, you know, come on soft lad, sort yourself out, blah, blah, blah.
Mate, do you think, like, so I've had I did car sales, and the bits those elements of my career that I really fucking didn't like at the time, but now I reflect and I use them pieces of the biggest lessons that made me the person I am.
Yeah.
And it's it's that sort of Instagram posting it, the hardest bits of your lessons that make you.
Yeah.
It's just like that what you're describing now.
Secret teaching, and that's life being the teacher.
Yeah.
And it's secret, and you don't realise when you're gonna need it. And I think in franchising in particular, it comes out in bags and bags when you've had to walk the streets and actually start selling. And I can remember my boss done his back in, he slipped, and then never missed a market ever. And my boss said, "You're on your own tomorrow." I was 16. I said, "You are?" He said, "You're on your own tomorrow." And I said, "I've never driven the lorry." like a Mercedes lorry, big old lorry. And he said, "You'll be all right." He said, "You'll be fine." He said, "Sit on the edge of the seat and you'll be fine. It's 3:00 in the morning. You'll get there. Just get one of the fruit and veg boys to park it up when you're there." I thought, fuck. You can imagine. You know, I've just about got a little Nissan Micra I should probably have. And I got it. And I finished that day. And then that was it. That was sales.
Yeah.
That was sales, right?
Yeah,
I felt alive. I shit myself.
Yeah.
And then I started spieling, like, come on, like, really buzzing. The market was alive and I had
There
it.
must have been an element. See, so sorry to stop you in your tracks, but these are the bits I think were lessons of getting taught. And that fundamental day or days before that, at one point, you will have said to yourself, I'm going to have to fucking do this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm either going to do that or I'm going to get my stuff and I'm going to go home.
Yeah.
I'm going to put my tail with some legs, I'm going to fuck off. Or there'll be a question that you might have a piss or doing something, you're going, I'm going to have to go and do this.
Yeah.
And you just did it, and that's it, you go from there.
And do you know what? I'd done it, and when I got back the next day, the gaffer was like nearly mute with me. He didn't. He barely spoke to me, and I spoke to his wife, and she gave me a hug and a kiss and said thank you because they treated me very well. And I said, what have I done? And she said, there's certain things in life that you'll learn, and sometimes people's backs might hurt, but their pride hurts even more.
Yeah.
You've done £250 more than he's ever done on a market stall on your own in one day at 16 years old. If you want to continue doing the markets, you're going to have to take less, or he'll pull you off the markets and get someone in to do it. And I thought, straight away then, in that young mind, I thought, well, that's not conducive of a good business.
Yeah.
That's where someone's ego's getting in the way of their development and growth. And already I was asking this question. Well, I'm doing it for him, and he can't even say thank you because he's more worried about his ego and arrogance. Yeah. And I think, no disrespect to us guys, that's why I love working with women so much, because it's removing that shit. And I think that's why I love franchising with a lot of women. We've got great guys in the network, but a woman would never have said that to me.
Yeah, the problem is we've got testosterone, haven't we?
Yeah, and I could see it. He was 60-something years old, feeling it. His back was bad, and some young whippersnappers just smashed 250 quid on his best target. Well, when I said to her,
no disrespect to Gap, but he's lived in that world his whole life.
Yeah,
he's lived in he's gonna think like that. He's never had someone say, you know.
But he didn't think, Ryan, like, I've taught him everything he knows. He didn't feel proud.
Yeah.
And you know, it went on for about a month or so, and I just kept going. I think I finished, when he got better, I think I was £1,100 up. And when he went back, he left me at home, and I felt abandoned because they were like family to me.
Yeah.
And I had to resolve it pretty quick in my own mind. So I put it all back into the dogs and thought, that's it, I'm off the markets. And it was quite painful. And his relationship and my relationship started to grow and develop again. And he started teaching me little things about sales and stuff like that. Because I never claimed to be a salesperson, because I'm not. Yeah. I can facilitate anyone's journey wanting to become a We Love Pets franchise because I believe in it and I love it.
Yeah.
I don't need to sell it. You know, it's not a product to sell.
No, I think I've been born into sales my whole life, and my dad was a trainer of salesmen, and there's a longer story about that. So, but I believe I know why you'll be good at sales, because you'll be passionate about what you do, and then you'll want to know the other people's reasons why. And when you ask people questions, that's selling, but people don't realise that until you've been a really good salesman. Right. And when you're a really good salesman, the craft is asking questions. Selling isn't telling, it's asking. And that's why you'll be good at it. I don't even know you that well. I've deliberately kept distance from you until I did the podcast, but I can just tell within about half an hour.
Well, there you are.
Because you're passionate about what you do. When you're selling a franchise, I suspect you'll ask lots of questions. And you might not realise it until now, or when you go back and reflect, but because you'll be trying to figure out what someone's motive is. And in that piece of work, that's where the selling becomes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There you go. See, I'm going to learn everything. This is like that counselling meeting I went on last month.
Do you do counselling? You've been counselling?
No, I did try it once, and the person I spoke to, I just touched a little bit on, really opened up about my child, and she started crying. I thought, fuck, I haven't started yet, love.
Mate, so Kay's going to definitely look at me. I've got the fucking best counsellor in the world, mate.
Yeah.
I've just started seeing her again. she's robust as hell, mate. If you want a good counsellor, she's had some mad shit from me. So.
Well, I got given a sort of someone to talk to that had been through similar sort of situation. This bloke, and he was immense, and I sort of spoke to him openly 5 or 6 times, and he just gave me some little gems about, you know, feeling disgust or distaste in your mind about what might have happened, but you were at an age where you would never have thought that was inappropriate or not inappropriate. And it was just like, and because I was quite a practical thinking person, I shook his hand and said, you have just done the most incredible thing. You've just made me 10 times more powerful than I ever was, because now I understand what happened and why. Nothing to do with me. It was not in my control. And now I look at that and I think to myself, what can I control? I deal with. What I can't control, I let be. And I think that's probably one of the probably the nicest thing to realise, that if you can't control it, leave it alone. Let someone else deal with it. If it's going to cause danger or harm to your family, i.e. this family, as much as my own, then I'll stand in front and I'll deal with it. But if it's no harm, I'll let it be. I won't exhaust myself or my team on it. And I think that's integral. And going back, we'll do loads of that, I'm sure. Going back to the markets, they told me they were selling, and he said, I want you to buy the market. And I said, well, I haven't done it for umpteen years. And he said, yeah, because you were better than me.
Right, with Jib's timeline, I'm just going to put it back to timelines because it's important. So, how old are you?
19.
Right? So you got asked at 19, so 19. It's like between 15 and 19 was the market trader time?
Yeah, well, that was dogs, and sales and markets.
So round about 19, they're wanting to sell, and they're saying to you at 19 years old. 19, yeah. Fucking hell, mate. Most 19-year-olds nowadays don't know whether I'm like, they don't. And so then, did you tell me what happened then?
I couldn't get anywhere near what he wanted for it, and he had already reduced it relative. I think it was £20,000.
Big money back then, though.
I was only paid, mate, I think it was 76 quid for 6 days. I was £76 in a brown envelope, 6 days, and if I was lucky, I'd get 5 quid. I thought, 20 grand. And he said, I've got an idea. I want you to go and work for one of the other market traders, one of the big players, the big boys that got markets all over. So we had a word with him, this market trader. And ironically, it was nothing to do with animals. And it was just selling cheese, of all things. Cheese. That's probably why my cholesterol's fucked now. It was cheese. Serious. I became a cheese connoisseur.
Did you like cheese?
I loved it, but you know, now I've got to have statins and stuff because I've ate too much of it, I think. Look at me. Look at the difference here. But yeah, no, and it was incredible. But I didn't just become a market trader with him. He took me on as his right-hand person. And a couple of the older boys took a bit of umbrage with it, really, because they're like, what's going on? Who's this young lad? He's got 37 market stalls. And he's called a meeting, and this meeting I went to, and he said, I'm going to Cyprus or something for 2 weeks. He said, Mike, Ryan's going to watch the show. And you know, in that moment, you're like, my old boss hated me for doing a little bit better. I got these market traders, and they didn't beat around the bush. You know, you didn't have HR then, yeah? And I remember looking at them, and I just thought, this is a disaster. Straight away, I heard it all, fucking arsehole. And I was thinking, no. Like, I don't want it. And you got this look by this bloke that you know full well that if you say anything, you're going to be squashed.
He's going to smash your head in.
And I was like, all right, we'll roll with this. Anyway, cut a long story short, I think, you know, again, I started to realise that I engaged well with people, and I understood the concept of listening to people, helping them and facilitating a journey, whether it was to buy a bit of bloody cheese or whether it was to help them with a dog or help them with anything. I started to realise the power of communication. Then it all started to hit me. I'm not actually that good at sales, but I've extracted a lot of ego and arrogance out of me because it was beaten out of me as a kid. So all of these things now.
Loads of empathy, loads of emotional intelligence.
Lots of empathy, lots of everything that, you know, basically stood strong to a good relationship with a stranger. And the animals taught me one thing as well that I didn't realise. I become an observer. I observed body language. I had to. You know, growing up as a kid, I needed to know how those keys got put down in the fruit bowl. What was I going to get that night? Was he in a good mood or a bad mood? You know, things like that. And when you have to observe little things like that, it becomes apparent why you count people in and out of a restaurant, why you notice a bird flying around with twigs in his beak, thinking, oh, it's got a nest nearby, where's it nesting? You know, little stuff, and it becomes slightly manic. Once I realised that I was so good at observing, I realised that I could work well with dogs and their behaviour, because I'll start looking at triggers, not behaviours. Behaviourists, there's a lot out there at the moment. You know, they're like mushrooms, they pop up and disappear again. They get a qualification online and hey presto, all of a sudden this, you know, a behaviourist. And I suppose looking at it, I think to myself, understanding why the dog reacts to something is vital. And I know we're jumping from one to another, but it's all relevant. My story, my life has begun. And amazingly, I ended up exactly where I was destined to be. And I don't believe in all of this bloody... You
should do a little bit though.
Here we go.
You should do a little bit based on what you've told me so far.
I'm all into science and everything else, but you've got to realise at some stages in my life I should be dead. And do you know what? If I wasn't killed, I should have killed myself at moments, you know? Because you're like, a lot of people haven't done, sadly, you know? But ultimately, I'm still here. So you've got to believe, I know if I said this to Jo, she'd be like, oh, get your cauldron out, hocus pocus. But actually... there's something in it, because every single journey I went on to the last moment with the cheese stall, I had enough money to buy the market stall.
Timeline again, roughly what age do you reckon?
21.
21, a couple of years and saved up.
And it came to it, and I went into business as well, because it wasn't sneaky, but with life in general, he built the market stall up a little bit more, so another 10 grand got on it. And you know, when you're dangling a carrot in front of someone, you're thinking, oh, I'm nearly there, nearly there. I lost patience. Another lesson to be learned. We'll go back to it. Patience.
I've got loads of it.
I was impatient, really impatient, impulsive. And I said to this guy that I didn't particularly think I could do business with, can you come in business with me? And he did, and it was a disaster. But the lesson I learned was, the last day, the boss, the gaffer, went and drew on this muddy van 2 paths. And he said, you've got 2 paths here that are going to change your life massively, because every big decision you make changes it. I don't want you to leave. You earn me more money than 2. I don't want you to leave. You know everything. But that's what I want. I respect you enough to you make a decision what you want. And I was bearing in mind I was young, and I never had much money because I was always abused. I was always that sort of monkey that was on the peanuts, whilst my friends were making big money, saying you're working all these hours from 10 at night till, or 3 in the morning till 10 at night. What are you doing for 100 quid in cash? Like, you know what it's like. And he said, but this is about you. He said, I'll give you an extra £15,000 a year. This was when I was 21. I'll give you £15,000, which would have swamped a lot of my friends. He said, but do you know what I think? He said, I think you're going to fuck up so much in business because you're too impulsive, you're too determined, you've got too much drive, you won't listen to anyone. But even if you fuck up, you learn 10 times more on your own than you will with me. He said, just make sure you learn from each mistake you make. And I made the decision to leave. And what a whirlwind that was. And it taught me a lot about franchising before I knew what franchising was. Because there's a lot to be said about being in business alone, lonely. And that's why I sell franchises as well as I do. Because in here, I remember dropping down to, I'm about 5 stone overweight now, but I dropped down to about 9-10 stone. And I'm sort of 15 now. And I went down to 8.5 stone because I was on my own. Accounts, what's that? One of the traders like, oh, use this accountant. Yeah, that went well. That was a disaster. But I didn't understand the business element. I could sell and I could buy. Because if you could sell right, you could buy right.
Because
it's reverse. You still negotiate. And it's all about that empathetic touch. Understanding, getting to people, what do they like, knowing what, when you're going to put bids in on pet food and stuff, because I'm back on the pet food side of things. And I've done very, very well. I climbed very, very high and fell very, very hard because I fell alone. A lot of the things that I made mistakes in, if I was a part of a franchise, I would never have made those mistakes.
Yeah.
So I sold it.
Right. How old were you when you sold it?
25, 26. So 21 to 26. I built it up from 1 market stall to 11 market stalls.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, 3 pet shops.
You smashed it, hadn't you?
Yeah, by 24 I wanted to turn over £1 million and I turned over 1.7 million in one market.
That's mega work, that.
But I lost it all. And I lost it by just stupid mistakes that I didn't understand because I was...
Did you have a team then?
Yeah, I had 11 staff.
Do you think there's some lessons in there you could share about building a team? Did you go for any hardship there? Or?
Do you know what? A lot of it was understanding that age wasn't an issue.
Yeah.
It was about respect. They were all a lot older than me, but respected what paid their bills. There was also an understanding after a few months in of autonomy and allowing staff that were decent people to make decisions in the business that could be better than the ones you had.
Yeah.
Exhaustion taught me that. 7 days a week, this is my baby, but there's more than one baby now and you can't look after all of them, so let them be. Yeah. Commitment, it taught me very quickly, you look after people, they'll look after you.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a bumper month and you slip an extra 20 quid in someone's wages, they don't take it out of your till the following week. Yeah. I learned that quite quickly. But a lot of it, Ryan, was about family, connection, understanding. It was a really odd environment to work in. It was very tough. If you acted like an arsehole, you were told an arsehole before you acted like an arsehole. Yeah. It was odd. It was brutal. Yeah. Brutal.
I feel like it's a forced leadership position you put into, aren't you? Because if you're not a good leader, and they probably don't even know what that means, but you have to act appropriately and actually truly give a shit about them team members because how brutal it is.
Yeah. And do you know, the reason I lost... I still sold it. I sold it for more than what I paid for it, which was a bag. You know, it was good because I earned a lot of money as well, and I lived quite a good life. But I made decisions that were terrible. Towards the end, I kept the team on when I financially couldn't afford it, and I kept them. And to the detriment, I borrowed money off various people that loved and cared about me. And it was the first time in business I realised the constraints that pressure puts you under. And you know, when you think to yourself, I've got to borrow this money to keep the guys in situ. Yeah. But it's good money going to bad all the time. Yeah. So if I was, and I suppose this reflects to, if I was part of a franchise, I would have had that support and know-how. But bearing in mind, I was 25. Yeah, I was like, people at 25 live at home still now. Yeah, they do. I had left home.
Some people don't have
I'd
cars,
already been
drive.
home, mate.
Yeah.
10 years. Yeah. At 25, I'd left home for 10 years. Living a big world. And I made serious mistakes. But I made childish mistakes. I was a child. Yeah. That's why. Yeah. I was a child. And do you know what? When I sold it, I didn't know what to do. Because I went through some real stresses, various reasons, again, where franchising helps. And I think these stories are important and it's nothing to be ashamed of. I went through all sorts of issues with HMRC and everything, not knowing. Yeah. When you're turning over that sort of money and your accountant saying, you don't want to be VAT registered. Yeah. And you're thinking, well, VAT registration's like 70,000 in it. I do that on a Wednesday and a Thursday. Yeah. But he's like, no, you don't. Yeah. You're being advised by professionals. Yeah. And when I sold it was a release. For the first time ever, I wasn't working for myself, because the whole time I was doing the market stuff, I was still working in various areas with customers and their pets. And I was like, why am I being put on this path to work with animals every flipping day? I want a break from it. Mm-hmm. People said, my teacher used to say, you'll never make money working with animals. I was doing all right. I lived in a nice place. I had nice cars. I had nice friends that liked me because of my nice cars, I'm sure. But I had all that. When I sold it all, I made a decision to go absolutely... I bought a caravan. And I thought, here we go, so 25. I know you like those time frames. 25 to 27, I lived in a caravan and loved it more than I ever loved anything. and I was obsessed with that nature, that life.
Similar sort of area in the UK, live in that area.
Yeah. And I thrived. I loved it because the little basic things in life. And I thought, do you know what?
I think you've been through a lot of learning, or a lot of stress at a very young age.
Well, it's all before 30.
Yeah, and wanting to just probably not have all that, because you probably grew up a little bit too quick, didn't you?
Far too quick.
Yeah. So then having that release, living in a caravan, thinking all I have to worry about is X, Y, and Z.
Do you know what, mate? It was a reset.
Yeah.
Not worrying about paying people's wages to pay their mortgages. Not worrying about, can I pay the bills this week? Can I do that? It was like total release. Yeah. And I thought to myself, do you know what? I don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do. So I thought, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to do an animal care course as a mature student. Why? Why on earth would I want to do that? I was just interested and had a bit of money, and I thought, I can do this.
Yeah.
And I went to the college, and there was a choice of a level 2 course or a level 3 course. The level 3 course, I knew nothing about education. Yeah. This rogue that hated school is wanting to go back to be educated, and I was worried, can I conform?
Yeah.
Been a market trader, I've lived a very, very exciting but very different life. I wonder. And I went and I met my tutor, and she said, you can't do level 2. You need to do a level 3 course. I said, I'm not sure that I'll last 2 years. Let's just go on the level 2 course. And I got accepted, much to the frustration. They wanted me to do the A-level equivalent, but I was going in. Ryan, my arrogance didn't want to tell this person in front of me that I didn't actually get educated. It stopped pretty much at 13.
Yeah. So
I didn't want to show myself up as an adult in front of 16-year-olds.
Yeah, I get it.
Anyway, I was frustrated. The lecturers that were teaching me, I won't speak badly of them, but they were teaching absolute nonsense. It wasn't correct. I knew their subjects better than them. And I started going to dinner, rightly or wrongly, with the lecturers, not the students. And I turned up for one of the lessons, and the lecturer was late. You know what FE colleges are like, or not. If you don't know what they're like, it's a lot of constraints there. They don't always turn up on time. And I went in and thought, you know what lesson is it? So I sat the group down, and the teacher came halfway through, and I was teaching the lesson, and the students were dead quiet. And they were dead quiet because I told them, as it was, I wasn't worried about conformity of being a lecturer, because I wasn't a lecturer. Yeah. So I told him, when Jake sat up, I told him, sit on your fucking seat. Listen, do you want to learn? You might learn something. And we got into breeding genetics. I don't know how we got into it, and I started realising, well, we're talking about breeding genetics. It was so simple of trying to work out a colour of a budgie or something. And the teacher came in and sat down, and we ran the lesson, and she said, I didn't realise, how did you learn all of this? Like, that was brilliant. And I said, I don't know really, just what I've learned. And here we go, yeah?
But let's talk about all the paths that got to you where you are right now.
Everything, so controlling a class, market days, probably.
Yeah. Leadership, or having a team at a young age, being able to, the amount of days you'll have thought on your feet to situations you probably never can't remember now.
And 9 months into the course, I got called in by the head of department. Wonderful woman. She had a lot of faith in me, and she said, "When you finish, I want to give you a job." I looked at her. I said, "This will be a big mistake." And she said, "It's a mistake I'm willing to take." And I said, "You want me teaching students?" I said, "I will." And I remember saying to her, and we're still in touch now. I told her I'm going to employ her. She's head of. She's one of the directors at Dutchy College, actually. But I will employ her in the next 5 years, 100%, because we have an online educational provider called Novabright.
Right, okay.
So we do online training, Ofqual accredited, as you do. We'll get to that. I said I won't conform, and I don't appreciate HR, and I think this could be a disaster for you. Yeah. I do believe the students will learn, but it will be a disaster. Yeah. She said, I'll take it. So that was that. So then I become a lecturer. I become an instructor because I didn't have qualifications.
Yeah.
I then had to sit in front of the principal, in front of my boss, and her basically say, irrespective of qualifications, you need to hear him in a lesson before you say for 1 second the other people are more advanced than what he is. And after he said, we're gonna get you teaching, and we're gonna do it on a basis of your experience. I always get asked a question: if a parent challenges me to who's teaching them, can I defend it with their qualifications or experience?
Yeah.
He said, every day.
Yeah.
He said, we'll give you that. And I stayed there then until I was 30, I was 26, 27, I was 30, till I was 35. Yeah, and I met, that's where I met our Director of Education, who I've employed to, Adam Harper. He's our Director of Education for Nova Bright. We now employ him because he's absolutely awesome at what he does. Mm-hmm. And we now employ him from there. But we partnered with the college and university for a while. We used to run all their courses.
Love that, mate.
And yeah, just I loved it, and I thrived, and I loved education, and my retention of students was perfect.
Because you'd be different than the rest of them, and you'll probably get on a page with them.
Yeah.
You're like, I think I hated school and I hated college. I got kicked out of college, and I used to think I just couldn't pay attention to the teachers because I just thought they were dicks.
Yeah.
Just no idea what they were talking about most of the time. I used to think to myself, you don't earn enough money, or you don't have enough intelligence in your brain to control me, so I'm not. But that was my ego talking at the time. But
or entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah, like
one of the two.
Yeah,
it's one of the two.
Yeah.
There's a fine line in there.
I think because mum and dad have had businesses the whole life, I was just always thinking I'm going to go and work for myself the minute I leave school. So
yeah, see, that's a dangerous thing, isn't it? Because that's what I was like at school.
Yeah.
The second that they offered me a job at 13, I can remember challenging everything, and I thought, what a dickhead. Honestly, Ryan, do that, I don't need to. And
Yeah.
you know, and then I thought, I wish I learnt more about geography, because that would have helped me with animals a bit more.
Yeah.
But do you know what? I've caught up and I've learnt all I need to learn now, with many more lessons to learn every day.
Yeah.
But the bases are there,
Yeah.
the fundamentals. But it is funny, because you say that, your arrogance, there is an element of it with us, testosterone and, you know, that level of whatever.
Yeah.
But it is that entrepreneurial, I want to be free.
Yeah.
Like, when I come here today, it's the third podcast I've done, because I think when I watch podcasts, I'm like, not engaged enough. It's not because of the people doing the podcast. I don't function like that.
Yeah.
My head's like this.
Yeah.
Podcasts are like this,
Yeah.
even if they're super exciting.
Yeah.
My wife's the same. And
Yeah.
do you know, I've never been labelled with anything, but I have a huge issue with conforming, not to legislation.
Mm-hmm.
And what's funny about the pet care sector we're in now, I want to regulate it to the till. I want to put red tape all over it to stop the cowboys riding through.
But that's because you're passionate though, isn't it?
Yeah. I'll conform in a moment like that, but do you know what? Life, you get one, mate. And I want to share my passion with a lot of people, which is why franchising's ideal.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, blimey, we're meeting my wife now, aren't we?
Yeah.
34, yeah.
But can you see from your from an outsider looking in who's never met you before and getting to share this journey with me, I can see why you're so passionate about the pet care, and then the lessons you've learned in business and the bit about the massive amount about your child life and your stepfather and all that control piece you've wanted to drive. So then I can imagine you super passionate about what you do. You'll know everything about it. You'll know all the regulations. You'll know how to deliver it to a group of people. You'll deliver it home in a way that people want to listen to you. Because I kind of want to listen to you now and learn about it. I couldn't give two fucks about it before. Do you get what I mean? But now I've listened to you.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to come in one of your classrooms because I think you'll deliver it in a way that I want to listen to you in.
Yeah, but I'm gonna confess now, and this is risky because I'm in the Tezlom Podcast, so this is gonna be a bit bold here. You guys broke the mold, because I'm sat here now because I gave you a shout out, and I fucking hate social. I gave you a shout out, and it's really bizarre because before I gave you a shout out, we spoke about Tezlom a lot in the office, and what was funny was we laughed because we didn't know what you did.
Yeah.
And you broke the mould because the people in Tezlom were bigger than the brand and what you did, which is the fundamental fuck-ups of a marketing journey, because it's like, no, the brand should tell people what it is immediately, not the people, because you deflect and distract from the actual job, the thing, because we're fucking prehistoric. No, unless a Stegosaurus walks down the high street, there's cars with tyres and wheels, yeah, here we go, yeah. Hold on, is this franchising? Sorry. But it's prehistoric, primitive, whatever you want to call it. And do you know what? I cared about Ryan. I cared about Gemma. I didn't fucking know you. And Tezlom, I didn't even know what you did. And we used to laugh in the office. So Joe, okay, the founder of We Love Pets. Shannon, who sat in the room, so I'm going to make it awkward for her. Darren, our tech guy. And one day we said, what do they fucking do? And I said, do you know what? Do you know what they do? They put their head above the parapet. They put themselves out there. They're energetic. They're fun. And do you know what? They got a room in this quiet, sleepy little town of Suffolk talking about them. So now guess what? We're going to go home and we're all so sad. We're going to look at what they do. And then the next day I gave you a shout out because you had done things differently. You were more important. When Kay joined, I was like, okay, I think I recognise her. But all of a sudden, no, I don't just recognise her from what you were talking about, Ryan. I actually recognise her because when she joined Tezlom, it was like I already knew her. What you had done is you made people realise that the second they talk about Tezlom, photographic memory, Tezlom that person, Tezlom fun, Tezlom out there, Tezlom courageous, inspirational, and you're thinking, oh, fucking this is getting sickening now. Jesus. But it doesn't. You want more of it. And that is, that I'll tell you, that's a credit to you lot. You know, that is absolutely incredible. But those observations, and it's like, it's just what you've done there, mate.
You know, I appreciate that, mate.
It's mad. But it is, like you say, you want to listen about what I do, but you don't give a shit. You've got 2 dogs, but you don't care. Let's face it. But it's the journey getting there that's interesting. Do you know what? I didn't give a shit till I started talking. I might watch it now. We'll have to do an X-rated one though. The days on the markets weren't all innocent. But do you know what? All of this journey, I then met this mature student. She'll kill me for saying that because she was mature. But Joe was running. She founded We Love Pets. She had 5 or 6 franchisees. She knew that she needed typical Joe. She knew to be the best, she needed the best. So she wasn't just happy with having a master's in business and law and a degree in canine behaviour. She wanted a degree in animal science. So she joined the college and university that I was at as a mature student. And I had no time for her at all.
You didn't have a bird or anything yourself? And have you been in a relationship?
Yeah. Oh, fucking, that's tragic. My relationships were the measure of my childhood. I was insecure. I was controlling. I made all the cock-ups of everything that I had seen. Everything, until slowly I made the right decisions. Don't get me wrong, I was in relationships where the people I was involved with, they like to play on it and build on it because it was that age sort of thing. But I was so busy all the time, I didn't have time for it. And I look back now and I made so many relationship mistakes because I hadn't evolved and developed. It was a very childish kind of mindset. And as soon as I met Joe...
Can I just stop you just for 2 seconds? I know I'm sorry you're going to go on to Joe now, but it's just really interesting for me this because I reflect quite a lot on my behaviour. I have done. I really do sometimes. I really question myself, and sometimes I'll reflect on about how I've acted and stuff. And I just wonder, any points in your 20s and your 30s with them women in your life, did you ever reflect on your own behaviour and think, I'm not going to do that next time?
Every time. Every time.
I just think there's a lot of men who don't. I think there's a lot of men who don't really question their behaviour sometimes.
You've got to question your mentality. If you touch a pan, it's hot, and you touch it again and then again and again, you need to go to hospital.
And then just, like it's like when you ask yourself the question, I don't like who I've been or what I've done, or I've dealt with that incorrectly, and I'm going to change it.
I hold my hands up wholeheartedly, but the one thing, Ryan, I never done, and I will never do, and it's been used in the sense of, look, I understand because of your child. Whoa, no.
Yeah.
I'm an adult.
Yeah.
I am an adult that makes decisions for myself, and I'm strong enough to take shit now and say, this was my cock up.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with my childhood.
Yeah.
My mum done the best of a bad situation. She
Yeah.
made one mistake, and that was leaving my father for someone else. She should have left him, obviously.
Yeah.
But she should have also understood her responsibility to me and my brother
Yeah.
were keeping us safe.
Yeah.
It was too late.
Yeah.
He was dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, I can't go into too much detail, but he was dangerous.
Yeah.
She knew that if she left, we weren't going to be about,
Yeah.
you know, that level of danger.
Yeah.
So she made a mistake, but deep down, especially as a parent now, I'll never forgive her for that.
No.
Never. And my brother wouldn't either. That's a different story. But
Can I just ask you, is your brother into animals as well?
yeah, look, my brother is a different kettle of fish.
Should we say that for another podcast, or do you want to go on to that?
That'd be an extremely interesting, lengthy one. My brother is a very different kettle of fish. Okay. He's dealt with things very differently. Okay. Yeah, he moved to the States to become a cage fighter.
No, he didn't.
Yeah. He has an amateur record of 86 wins, no losses.
No, he doesn't.
79 knockouts.
No way.
He's the only fighter in America, amateur level, to hold a title belt at 3 different weight divisions.
No way, I love that.
He's a man full of rage.
Oh my God.
And now he is a man full of peace, and he's left all of that behind. And he now lives off grid in the middle of Missouri on his own. Do
you have a relationship with him at all?
We have a good relationship in the sense we're brothers, and that will never change.
Yeah.
I love him to bits, and I adore him, but he is an individual. The one thing growing up in a disjointed family, and a family with no love and affection, it teaches you that the whole saying blood's thicker than water is bullshit.
Yeah.
Because I would consider, and this is why everyone that bothers to watch this will realise why We Love Pets are so successful. Anyone that wears this are my family.
Yeah.
And the difference between that and maybe competitors and other people is because that's from the heart, not from the lips. Yeah. There's a lot to say. Anyone wearing the We Love Pets brand, they're my family, and I'll do anything for them.
Yeah.
The dangers of that is the exhaustion that it leads you, because the emotional pressure you put yourself under.
Yeah, by saying them words and putting it, I get it.
Yeah. I love every single one of them, and when I get frustrated and annoyed or angry, it's always because I want them to do better for themselves. I want them to understand that everything I do is for them, but there's changes that you have to make in the world. If you don't move, if you're not flexible, if you're not agile, what happens to rigid things put under pressure? They break. So we need to remain flexible and move in journeys. But luckily, our franchisees, they trust us.
Yeah.
They trust us because of the passion.
Yeah.
And that's why people are shocked when I don't bother with NDAs. Because I laugh when someone says, would you like me to sign an NDA?
Yeah.
For what? What for? What could you take from We Love Pets? What could you take from We Love Pets to make your own business better?
Yeah.
Because my team are going to stay in these walls. My franchisees will wear this with pride, and you could never extract the passion from me and my wife.
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah.
Copy away.
Yeah. It's so
You
true.
know.
It is so true. It's
It's
I can
passion.
reflect in my business on aspects of that as well. Yeah, it's all about the passion, the drive.
You're totally different.
Yeah.
Who are you similar to?
No one.
You will be in 5 years, because people will start following.
Yeah.
And when they follow, you'll be on a trajectory like that. And
Yeah.
every time you change, you'll laugh, because they'll be imitating what you used to be, because you've already developed.
Yeah. So true.
Love it. I
Right.
love it.
Sorry to go off on a skew there, mate. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions around it. Joe, so you're teaching away. Joe rocks into a classroom. Love at first sight, or
No, far from it.
tell me about that.
Joe was married. I was in a relationship.
Yeah.
It was she wasn't on my radar at all. She had caused a little this is Joe. She had caused a little bit of a stir while she was there, because she wasn't quite happy with a few things, and that's typical. Joe expects high standards, and she also speaks very loudly.
She does, yeah.
She won't hide. No. That's another thing for people to, you can't take my wife out of this business, then don't even try to get anywhere near. She's extremely passionate, and she had created a few little things, and at the time I just thought, yeah, I get what this woman's saying actually. And it was just about a lecturer who was inadequate at his job at that level, and Joe, you got to remember, she had a master's in business and law, coming to do this degree in animal science.
Yeah.
She was far superior with academia than the lecturer in front of her, and she saw it a mile off.
Yeah,
and she moaned and complained. She ended up, she actually, because of it, blimey, I'm learning a lot about this, and she's not going to realise this. Because of her kicking off, she was assigned a new lecturer. And the new lecturer was my boss internally, and also a very good friend.
Yeah.
And it was because of that, his office was next to my office, that I met Joe.
Right.
And she asked my boss, who was very unbusiness related, he was not business orientated at all.
Yeah.
He wouldn't employ people that were as good as him or better than him, because he didn't want to have to manage someone that was unmanageable.
Yeah.
Whereas I recruit people better and bigger than me, because I don't want to do that job, and they're far better than me.
Yeah, exactly.
But he couldn't do that.
No.
And one day he sort of whistled me in and said, "Ryan, you got 10 minutes?" I said, "Yeah, always got time. What's up?" And Joe was in there. And then I had a little look then and thought, yeah, she's all right. I'll give her a minute. Like you do. Yeah, she scrubs up all right. I was looking for my hat, actually. She'll tell you. I was looking for my hat. I lost my hat. And because I'm only being, I don't want to say diagnosed, but I'm going through this ADHD test at the moment to see if I've got ADHD.
Yeah.
I say it anyway because I don't need to, the form they gave me was that thick, and I get 2 pages in, I asked Shaz to fill it out.
Yeah.
And it said at the back, can't cope with lots of forms, and they give you a pack that big. I just wrote every single thing where it said extra comments. This is bollocks. I'm struggling. I'm busy. I don't need all this. Shaz was reading it, and she's like, and at the end it said, if you struggle to read through this, it's like, yeah. Oh, you just wasted my time. But yeah, Joe started talking to me. I said, sorry, can I just stop? I'm looking for my hat. It's a green hat. If you find it, Paul, just let us know. And he's like, yeah. Shall we get back? Oh, yeah, sorry. Anyway. I said, what's up? And he said, Joe has this business about she's got a pet care business. I said, oh, right, great, marvellous. Because I was involved with the kennels, we saw the rise of the dog walkers before I left. Yeah. And they were just amateurs going out walking 10 dogs at a time, which was everything as a behaviour, as someone, not a behaviourist, as someone excited and enthused by animals' behaviour. I hated it because people were still talking about the pack mentality. Anyone talking about a dog being a pack animal, they need to look at the definition of packing on Google, because that's where they get their information from. Wild animal, a group of wild animals. Yeah. Dogs are domesticated. Yeah. You can have a dog. I mean, how many wolves sleep under a tree and go, is it wet or cold outside? God, it's freezing, I'll shit under my tree. No, but you let your dog out the door. If it's raining, it'll go, no, I'll just go piss on the carpet. They're not a pack animal. They're a domesticated pet. They're as far removed as you can possibly get. True. So don't just throw a load of dogs together and say, walk with a pack. What a load of rubbish. Yeah. They're just monopolising on people's uneducated background around dogs to get loads of money. So that's what I thought Joe was about. Yeah, so straight away I switched off and was like, here we go. Oh, God. And she said, yeah, and said a bit, I don't walk more than 3 dogs. And I was like, okay, that's pretty sensible. Yeah. What do you want to know? She said, I want my franchisees to be the best they possibly can, but I'm not the best to train them, and I've done all the training. I want them to be trained by a specialist. Paul said, here he is. Yeah, and she said,
animal man himself.
And then my boss started laughing because Joe asked the next question, do you know anything about the pet care sector in business? And Paul started laughing. And I said, yeah, a little bit. And she's like, I said, look, come in. And took her into the office, and we just sat and spoke for ages. And she's like, you're really passionate, aren't you? Yeah. And I was like, yeah, why are you not doing this and this? Why have you only got 6 then? Yeah. This could be massive. And she's like, well, go figure. Yeah, it could be. Yeah. And I said, no, you need to do this. Why don't, let's organise it. So all of a sudden I became We Love Pets animal trainer, training them all about animals. And because I knew everything about everything, I didn't just teach them about dogs, I taught them about snakes, lizards, reptiles, everything. Guinea pigs, chinchillas, the lot. because I had it all in the bank. But not only did I teach them how to handle them and look after them appropriately, I taught them how to engage with the customers, market days.
Your profile is fucking perfect.
Yeah, because it's all developed.
Yeah, it's all developed. Your profile's actually like there isn't actually a better job for you.
No,
there isn't actually.
And that's what worries me. So everything about a welfare perspective, I can teach them. I can also teach them how to speak to the customer to understand why we do what we do.
And you can deliver it in a way because you've been a teacher as well.
And I'm teaching.
Yeah.
It all happened, Ryan. Like, it was odd. And then, the rest is, is history, and I'm sure you want to know more about the rest. But and then we started talking. I started delivering training and everything else, and I started really getting on with her. And they all went to the pub. My relationship was breaking down with a woman that I was with.
Yeah.
And hers, I didn't realise, was actually broken down, but she was still married. And they were getting on very well, but they were still married, and there was no complications. Very nice bloke, really nice guy. But they had they lived a very different life because of his position of where he was, and they knew a breakup at that point would have been detrimental to their profile. Yeah. So they were together, but not unhappy, just finished ultimately. And I was separating, and it wasn't until Joe realised, because she said, "Do you want to come for lunch?" And I said, "I'd love to, but if I did that, I'll have my bags packed." She won't accept that. And then we were on our own, and I said, "No, look, she's got serious issues with trust and everything. I don't do anything other than work, but when I go home, she checks my phone and everything else." And I sort of realised, and I ended up separating from her. And just one random day, Joe messaged me and asked me about a certain area that I knew well.
In the location?
Yeah, she didn't give a shit. She could have phoned an estate agent. I remind her of that as well. She done the chasing. Yeah.
Obviously. Why would she not?
Why wouldn't she just get in touch with an estate agent? And I said, "Oh, right, are you two planning on moving?" She's like, "Oh, just me." I'm like, "Yeah, knew that one." Go figure. I'm now not going to reply till tomorrow.
Yeah, leave hanging.
I've learnt a special set of skills. I will find you. Yeah, it was amusing. So I left it, and we just chatted all the time, business. And I thought, could this woman be as interested in business and obsessed as me?
Yeah. I think she is.
I reckon she is.
Yeah. I've only had a couple of brief encounters with her, but
she's incredible. Like, her desire to grow sustainably, develop and deliver the best.
Just listening to some of the things you've done, like, I'm just.
She's incredible, and I suppose the two of us got together. And do you know what's even more mad? In 3 years after that moment, we had 2 kids and got married. And everyone was like, they didn't want kids. Yeah. And what was even worse is I had to then meet her mum and dad, my now father and mother-in-law. And I had to sit there knowing full well. And he said, I hope you look after my daughter and blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, she's pregnant. Yeah, bad. And I'm thinking, and I shook his hand, and he looked me in the eye and said, "She's very precious to me." And I'm like, holy shit.
Get out of this room.
And then what was even worse, because I was all disjointed and thought, for the first time, I've been put on the spot by many a people. Yeah. This has shocked me, and I went to walk to the toilet, and everyone was stood. I opened this store cupboard, and how this happens, mate. I opened the cupboard. The Hoover fell out, the mop fell out, the shit fell off the shelf. Huge issue in front of it, because I thought it was the toilet. And in that moment of sheer panic, I just kept wanting to say, like, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it." Yeah, and then about 4 weeks later, she said to Mum and Dad, "I need to speak to you," and they were a bit like perplexed by it. And they both burst into tears.
Oh, buzzing.
Yeah,
nice.
They both burst into tears. And Adam, our Director of Education, he actually found out that Joe was pregnant at the same time as me, because we were in the middle of the rainforest in Borneo, teaching students on rainforest and survival.
What the fuck are you doing out there? How did you
With the college, I used to do all the
right.
and we.
So just to clarify, so you're still at college at this point, and then you joined.
Yeah. So I'm still at college, and oh blimey, she had graduated when we started our relationship. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Are we editing this out? Yeah, okay. No, can't get away with that one. She sent me a text and said, I really need to speak to you. And I was like, love, I'm on the Kinabatangan River. Like,
what do you want?
Searching for all sorts of animals here. Like, I've got a load of students that look just right for that salty croc that's about 18 foot and you want to talk to me. She's like, yeah, you're going to be really pleased, I think. And I text back and said, did your dad finish building the cat run? And she said, don't worry, I'll tell you when you get home. Yeah. Well, when your signal's mucking about and you're thinking, is the cat run finished? Yeah. And we got on a coach and I got a text message through and it's just this, photo of this test. Yeah. Now we all see it and you think COVID. Yeah. But I said to Adam was sat next to me and I looked at it. And me and Adam had just planned 6 months in Thailand together. My mate. And he said, because we'd been in the rainforest for a few days and I was feeling a bit rough actually, because I had to carry a load of the girls. The girls couldn't manage with a pack, so I had to carry 3 packs, 60 kilos for 7 hours, And I had to share my water between those 3 as well, because they were struggling, so I had very little water intake. And I got this message and Adam, he just looked at me. He didn't even know. He said, mate, do you want a sick bag? I said, no, I don't know, mate. And he's like, and he shouted over to Addy, the guide. He's like, just stop a minute. He said, you look awful, mate. And I was like, I think I'm going to throw up. And he got me a sick bag, and I was like, he said, what's happened? And I said, I just got a text. And he's like, oh God. He thought someone died, and he saw the photo, and he shouted to Addy, get me another sick bag. We both sat there like 6 months in Thailand's finished. But yeah, and that's when I found out I was going to be a dad for the first time. Yeah. And after I got through the shock, and do you know what you said about becoming a father? Yeah. No risks. I wanted to get in the Kinabatangan River to clear some water hyacinth, and I saw a load of crocs there. So as it was, I was the one getting out the boat and taking the boat in first. Couldn't get anyone to do it. Oh, Adam. I said to Ad, mate, you've got to have my back on this one, mate. I don't want to be croc bait now. Yeah. Can you do it? And he's like, yeah, it's all right, I'll do it. And then everything from then on. Bearing in mind, a couple of days before, we saw a mangrove snake, and venomous. And I wanted to show the students, and it was just me and a guide. So I said to the guide, I'm going to catch it and take it to the students. They'll love it. And the guy was like, no. I was like, they're rear fangs. I'd have to be really unlucky to get killed here. And I took it in, and then next minute, all of a sudden, I'm scared of getting a splinter and,
I've got responsibilities.
Yeah, I'm like walking along like this. Shit, what's that mosquito doing? Yeah, so it's like, oh my God. But yeah, and then obviously it was just amazing. And Joe and I, she started introducing me to more and more franchisees.
Yeah, let's talk about, can I just talk a little bit more about the boring stuff, franchising? So, 6 franchises.
Yeah.
You I guess there's a conversation like you'd left college, started working then and got into franchising. To give people scale.
There was an overlap. I stayed at the college and until we sort of developed. We didn't realise I could recruit. We didn't know that could happen. Yeah. And then one day Joe had a franchisee ring in, and I was like, no, look. And I helped Joe a little bit with the business side. I was all very animal focused, and Joe was like, yeah, I totally get what you're saying. Like, she's like, for someone that's not involved in the business, you're bloody passionate, aren't you? I was like, I'm passionate about everything We Love Pets do. Yeah. You don't realise. Yeah. You might as well, it could have been Ryan White before We Love Pets. This is everything I believe in. Yeah. So we tried it, and before I gave up at the college, I worked part-time. Right. And I launched 16. We recruited 16 in that year.
Yeah, just give me some. I'm just trying to get scale, because people who don't know franchising want to sort of, if you try and picture that for someone.
Okay.
It's so like first year you joined, second year.
So 2008 to 2015, there were eight franchisees then. Yeah. 8. I joined December 2016.
Yeah.
December 15 I joined.
Yeah.
By January 17, we had 22 franchisees.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some more in that, mate.
Yeah, like, it was like...
Growing a team as well to support at the same time.
Yeah. And at the time, we didn't know what level of support that amount of franchisees. Bearing in mind, Jo set We Love Pets up with no consultant.
Yeah.
She's done it all herself independently.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
Yeah, it's a long way.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I take my hat off, because those, consultants out there, they do a bloody good job. But Jo done it all with a lot of research and everything. And we had 22 franchisees after a year of me doing it. And then I said to the college, I'm going to have to leave. And my boss ripped up my resignation and put it in the bin. So I got half of it out and wrote it again. And she ripped it up, so I put on a post-it note, "Fuck off." And she laughed. She said, "I'm losing you, ain't I?" And I said, "You are." She said, We Love Pets partner with us. I said, what will that entail? She said, "You partner with us and you do all your qualifications through City and Guilds through us, and you deliver the courses.
Oh, mega.
And you also deliver any of the courses related to anything that you're good at."
Yeah.
Because they had a wonderful team of lecturers, but there were certain things that I liked to deliver, and she knew I'd done a good job.
Yeah.
And so we partnered with them for a good few years, really, until she eventually left, and that was my time. But in the background, what we were doing, we were creating a company called Novabright, which is an Ofqual accredited training provider online, and you can find it now. It's
just tell me about what the qualifications for exactly.
Pet care.
Pet care.
Well, I say pet care. Actually, we were talking to another big franchise company recently, and it looks like we'll be rolling it out to some of their franchisees. I don't want to say who yet, but they're a big one.
Yeah.
We're going to make bespoke courses for them, because it's not a training provider. We called it Novabright because we used to have We Love Training, but it was too specific for animal care.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we've just done a compliance course, and we've just done a course on GDPR for something totally different to animal care.
Yeah.
So we make bespoke courses.
It's fundamental for running a business, isn't it? So
well, it means all our franchisees and all their staff can have decent CPD pathway, because a lot of We Love Pets is about education.
Yeah.
And you can get all these qualifications online, and I know it sounds a bit like, well, you've got an online one. Yeah, but ours is put together by experts.
Yeah.
We have Dr. Eloise at the head office. She writes all of our first aid stuff. There aren't many pet care franchise companies that actually have a vet, a doctor within their head office team. We have, because we want the very best. And I think that's the big thing about We Love Pets. Jo wants the best, I want the best, the brand wants the best. But guess what? If someone's paying $12,995 plus VAT, they deserve the best.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. And I think so.
Like, I don't sleep well at night not knowing I've got the best that can try and support the best.
There you go.
Yeah, it's just that's it. And
that's why we're so.
It's not a commercial decision. It's a morale. It's morals.
And when you sell something in an ethical sense, and you have that ethos that is so, you're so passionate for something. Transparency, Ryan, is integral. People say to me, so you look at the numbers. 2016 to 17, I recruited 16 branches. 17 to 18, I recruited 17 branches. 18 to 19, another 18 branches. 19 to 20, 20 branches. During the pandemic, we launched 27 branches. Yeah. To what this year this year I've declined 11 and we've recruited 15 from January to now.
This year.
It's
Incredible, that, mate.
We could be over 20, but it has to be the right person.
Yeah.
With regards to losing franchisees, because you have to look at that.
Yeah.
In 15 years, our 15th year birthday actually, it's, you know, it will lose its snotty teenage years soon. It might behave itself a bit more. 13 branches in 15 years.
Yeah.
And there's some real good reasons behind that.
Yeah.
Everyone always says, I don't know if you get it, well, I heard you've lost X amount of branches.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but did you hear how many people left one job to another job last year?
Yeah.
Like, it happens.
We're the same. I can talk you for every single one.
Me too.
Yeah.
And do you know what? Every single person that has left, whether it's been good or not so good, they couldn't stand anywhere and say anything other than Ryan done absolutely everything he said he would, and his team.
Yeah.
And everything I bought into was fact.
Yeah.
There's no one that could say any different.
Yeah.
And that is the ethical approach.
Yeah.
And there's no hiding it, mate.
The problem is, and what I learned quite quickly when I joined, because I joined just 3 years after my dad starting, is that there's actually no point not being because it's only going to kill you.
They're with you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they live with me.
Yeah.
You like literally become my best friend. So
Yeah.
like, there's zero point bringing any sort of disillusion, any sort of tales or any white lies or any grey areas, because it will come back and bite you on the ass.
People don't think like that.
Yeah, just
People don't think like
it's
that.
going to come screw you over. What's the point?
And it starts to hemorrhage. And do you know what? You've probably seen. I don't know if you have. I've been on, LinkedIn. I'm not great on it, but you probably notice I do a lot about protection and preservation of the word franchising.
Yeah.
We have to protect that word like it's this delicate egg, and if anyone drops it, it cracks.
Yeah.
If it gets dropped too many times, the word franchising starts to get
Bad
boshed.
Yeah.
And then we all have a problem.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, in moments, and this is why Joe worried about me being on the podcast sometimes, because I say it as it is.
Yeah.
I don't need to go into detail, but what I want people to remember is you have to franchise ethically.
Yeah.
Purely and simply because the word franchising is attached to the whole notion of what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you start becoming the rat in the pantry, okay, you never catch the rat, but it destroys everything within the pantry and everyone knows it's there.
Yeah.
You're not going to be liked. And it does matter about being liked in a situation where all franchising companies, look at us sat here now, having a good old chat, like getting it out there about our lives, what we've done, and it's incredible, and it's opened my eyes up. Like podcasts I hated before, it's boring and dull. And to be honest, I probably won't watch all of this because I fidget too much.
Same.
But it's interesting, doing what we've done in very little detail has really made me think when I go back about reflecting about everything to see why and where it's moulded me. Because it's really interesting.
That's why I started this podcast, because I started my business when I was 24 or 23, and I was trying my hardest to film myself. I hated school as well, but I just needed knowledge. I just needed information around the stuff I was doing, education, recruitment. So I was just trying my hardest. So Twitter was quite big then, and a lot of school, because I started in education recruitment. So I was constantly trying to feed information into myself. I don't read, I like fucking watch stuff. I read small stuff because my attention span goes. But what I am good at is talking and networking. That is my fucking skill set. So talking and networking and combining people and talking, that's what I'm good at. So when I joined the BFA, did these networking things, I was like, oh my God, it's back again. Knowledge, information, talk to this person, get inspired, find out their story. And then I was like, this needs to be spoke about more. But there's loads of people in the franchise industry, you're not so bad at it, who don't sort of shine them limelight. You met mum downstairs, she's 70, she's had multiple businesses, sold and dealt them, managed hundreds of people from a very young age, multi-million-pound businesses, and never put a post out ever. I'm trying to get on the podcast, but she'll just start crying straight away, so I can't put her on. But one day I'll do a podcast. But there's loads of people like that. So I was like, gonna buy all the equipment, gonna start doing this, and I just want to share people's story, because mate, it's so inspiring listening to what you've been through, and I can completely see why you're in it, and your whole life's just designed for you to sell franchises and be part of this business, because Like, I'm almost like, I know that you're going to be educating people correctly. You're going to do it ethically. Your morals are right. The compass is right. They're going to get the best support they'll ever have because your whole life's designed to at this point.
Yeah, and something else that I learnt very quickly, and you say about going to the BFA, you know, I'm a huge advocate of the BFA.
Me too.
I really am, and I sing their praises, and I know sometimes they get a bit of a sort of kick in.
What happens is people want to give them a kick because they think they should deliver leads to them.
Yeah, but that's not going to work.
Yeah, they think
that's not what they're there for.
Yeah, they think the BFA should be a website that gives them leads.
No.
It's not.
No, I don't think so.
No, it's
a
fountain of knowledge and puts you in front of people.
And that's the thing, and I think, you know, I am a huge advocate of the BFA, you know, and you can talk and chat about all the, you know, associations out there and everything else, and you know, I'm a huge fan. I think, Ryan, and I think going back to what you said there, what you did as well, you probably realised the same as me. You learn the most when you teach.
Yeah.
And you learn the most when you teach if your teaching is to an individual and not a number.
Yeah.
And that's when I started pushing back at the college.
Yeah.
I was working silly hours because I was teaching my students individually rather than as a number.
Yeah.
And when they started giving me this lesson plan, that lesson plan, and saying 45 minutes of every hour and a half lesson needs to be planned on paper, I said, no chance, it won't be happening.
No.
I said, and you can walk into any of my lessons. And that is all about students, franchisees, student wanting to learn to increase their academia and develop a skill set, franchisee wanting to increase their knowledge about the pet care sector and business and make money.
But it's your empathetic skills that pick up them character traits when you're teaching them people as well. So
you have to learn a different style.
Yeah. So you're picking up that person. You've sold them the franchise or awarded the franchise, or whatever the terminology you want to use, but you took them on that journey. So you know what their person's like, and I know the teaching style I'm going to have to teach this person because they learn differently than the other person. Yeah. You know their key goals, and it's that coaching going through as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and Ryan, do you know when you people always say, what's the sort of person you want to recruit? Passionate. Yeah. People say, I always say, if you can put all of We Love Pets franchisees together and there'll be a similarity. One, they'll all love pets. That's kind of by default. That's what we are. Yeah. You know, we sort of like pets.
Yeah. I'm allergic to cats and dogs.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Ultimately, they're running a business. Yeah. You know, people, do you know, the last time I went, I was talking to a guy, because you know when you go to these networking things, you know, there's things swinging all over the place sometimes. And I went and I shook hands with someone and they said, oh, We Love Pets. Oh, yeah, cute. And you know when you're like, oh, sweet. And I said, yeah, okay, cheers. I knew where he's going with it. And I thought, that's a bit weird, cute. And I thought, bit odd. What, cute? It's like, yeah, it's cute, but was that all you had to say? And I thought, okay. And then he went off to talk about projections and shit. And I thought, oh, God, this is going to be boring. And then I sat next to a couple of diamonds. One was Steve Calvers, I think, sadly passed away.
Oh, right.
Legend. Yeah. Absolutely legend. I actually met him at another group of legends, Coconuts. They are nuts. But at the time I went to a thing and I was talking to Steve Calvers, and I'm sure that's his name. And he gave me some really good advice. And do you know what the advice was? It was a bit of a statement, I suppose. He said, you're good at this. He said, you're different. And I said, right. He said, do what you do best. And I said, right. And he said, you're in a recruitment seminar now, and you're going to be taught about recruitment. I've been doing this for years. Do what you do best, son. And he shook my hand. And when I saw him a year later, it was odd because we didn't speak, and he shook my hand. And he said, you did what you do best. 22. Incredible.
Amazing.
And he knew.
Yeah.
And I was like, I said to my wife, like, I met him once, and he was old school, yeah. He was like, personable, you're right. Ignore what some people are saying to you when you've got to go down this pipeline, that pipeline. You know, fucking pipelines. Like,
they remove all the emotion, don't they?
Yeah. Be you.
Can't do that.
And I suppose that's what we do. And you know, we're at a time in our sector where we are 12,995, and we've got a lot of people at the moment slashing their franchise fees by 50% and everything else.
I don't know about that.
We're in that challenge. It's hard. There's a lot of devaluing going on within the whole franchise.
No one wins.
No.
It's no point.
No, because you get the question, you get a B2B, and for the first time ever, and it won't be a discussion that will last very long.
It's a race to the bottom, you see that sort of stuff, I hate it.
Yeah, and for the first time ever, there's been a few sort of snakes in the grass within the industries, with B2B sort of saying to me, do you know what, it's not a biggie, but the only reason I rang you back was because I didn't actually get from you what one of your competitors said you were.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for letting me know. And they're like, no, but it's kind of pushed me your way now.
Yeah.
Are you happy to have another chat?
But people recognise that, mate, don't they?
Yeah.
Casting darkness of us to shine yourself light is just the worst thing to do ever.
To be better, you need to be better.
Yeah.
You can't make people look worse. Just be better.
Yeah, just don't, yeah.
You're in control of your destiny.
There's a saying I also like is like, always keep your side of the street clean.
Yeah.
Just look after yourself.
Exactly.
Look after yourself. Don't worry about them. Don't need to mention them.
Yeah. No, it's a good thing. It really is, and I suppose, in a nutshell, that's got us to where we are today.
So how many franchises you got now?
107
and
franchisees.
What do you know roughly what you can sell as many as, and what's the end game?
511.
Wow.
Left to sell.
Wow.
We recently been to Dubai. That's quite an exciting one. We've just put our counter offer back. We have had an offer in Dubai that we're looking at. They came back with an offer. We've just gone back to with another. Yeah. So I would imagine in the next 14 months we'll have our first branch international, and we're ready. We have, we have 11 staff at HQ that are good and strong. Yeah. They're good. They're a good team. I think I sort of mentioned to you earlier, and you told me to shut up because I started talking, and you're like, "No, wait, this will go on the podcast." And I think you said something about when you first started, and you're sort of treading water, kicking like mad, and you're working yourself, and you don't want to give things up. Yeah. And we've got to within the business now, where myself, I'm back to where I started, in the sense of trying to do it all, and I've realised I can't. Yeah. I've got to look after myself. My health's not been great, and I think I realise if you listen to what you read about sleep and how you can't function. So I generally function on 4 to 5 hours a day, and before the days of the market, you're talking 2, 3, some days not. Yeah. And I look now and think, don't do all this good to then not be about. To enjoy it, and see other people enjoying it. Yeah. So I'm now in that process now of handing over things, which I find very difficult.
Bit of a learning curve to go on there. Sleep's a big one for me. I got hardly any sleep last night. I woke up in a horrendous mood and had a terrible start to this day, but because of lack of sleep.
Oh, cheers, mate.
Yeah. I did.
He's all on the podcast. We love pets. Fuck yeah, God.
It wasn't like that.
It's funny though, isn't it?
Yeah. Sleep's a big one. I think water is massive. It's my default. I talk to a lot. Looking after your well-being, your mental health. That's my go-to water. I always reflect on that part, and then sleep and exercise, or just moving in general, or getting outside's a big one for me. Like isolating myself as well. Sometimes just being on my own is quite a good one for me.
Do you ever find yourself getting a bit lost though?
I know what you mean by that. I just sometimes have to. It's more that reflective thing. I just reflect upon my behaviour and then try and talk to certain people about it. It's just a piece that I went through quite a traumatic thing when I found my brother dead at the bottom of the stairs. He hung himself about 4 years ago, and after that point I sort of reflect a lot on my behaviour, and because you can go through quite a trauma, it can be quite aggressive sometimes, or can be really, you blame a lot of things, and I lost my dad, and so I often try and reflect on my behaviour because I'm trying to not do them things, and I think you don't really realise. I think in your 40s as well, as a man, you do not slow down, but I feel like you think you're not in your 20s anymore, and I think
you know it.
Yeah, you know it. So again, you don't have to, you can still train every day and do all the things you enjoy, or go outside, walking dog, or whatever you do to do, but just make sure you do them things.
I think the thing is, people don't realise it in business, in franchising, in anything, in life. you can be in a crowded room and feel the most loneliest person ever.
Yeah.
And when I say that to people, I spent my life like that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure in certain situations, just listening to that, I mean, you've been through a lot, and a lot of people, you know, when you speak to them, sometimes that's the first thing they deliver, and it then makes it sort of become so apparent it's there all the time.
Yeah.
You know, that's that's so relevant in your life and who you are today, because things like that, they don't just mould you.
Yeah.
That's there.
Yeah, forever.
But
having your own business, you are lonely, because you go through a stage of, because rightly so though, mate, it is no one else is going through that journey.
Yeah.
So you do feel lonely in that thing, and it makes you reflect, and it makes you think. And sometimes, if you're not looking after yourself, it can be a real negative thing, but also can be a real positive thing as well. So it's mindset is a big one as well. Changing your mindset, reflecting, making sure you change your mindset on the day. But this is a deeper conversation. This podcast could go on for hours talking about stuff like that, couldn't it? So.
Yeah, it would. And that's the thing, and that's why, like I spoke about, you know, when I got to my brother, I was like, oh, we could do a podcast on that, because, you know, sadly, my brother, you know, he suffers with bipolar.
Yeah.
Do I believe that, or do I believe that he didn't challenge what happened to us as children? He left for America and then spent his life fighting people in a ring. Yeah. You know, why is he doing that with all the anger and aggression? And now maybe he's healed. Yeah, maybe he's healed himself living off the land. Yeah, I don't know. But he's an odd character. He's definitely something to talk about.
To chat to. Yeah. I firmly believe what you've been through. I'm so grateful for you sharing your journey, mate. I really, really appreciate it.
You know,
I think anyone who knows you or was relevant and watch this podcast will take a lot from it, and just stuff that you don't know about. But showing your hardship for you've been through, and then getting to the point where you are now, mate, it's incredible.
Well, I think, you know, the biggest thing about this for me is coming here is you, or Tezlom, or podcast, whatever you want to do, one of those three things. You've made me look at how I got to where I am. It's funny because I'm smiling a lot inside, thinking every little piece of that puzzle was put down at certain parts. And now when Joe says you need to do this or you need to do that, I was built to do this.
Yeah. Like, there isn't another job. Like, if we shut We Love Pets tomorrow, what are you going to fucking do?
I wouldn't enjoy much.
Yeah, you would have to do it again, wouldn't you? You'd only have to do it again.
Yeah, and you know, on that, just quick, because, you know, this has been going on for a while. This is one of those podcasts that I'm like, fucking hell, shut up. Fuck me, how long
I'm trying to wind it up.
Yeah, you are. It's like fucking Gladiator, but just not as entertaining. But honestly, Shaz asked me a question. What would I do if it wasn't We Love Pets? And do you know what I'd do? What? I'd teach under 16s, okay, that couldn't be learned in mainstream education. Yeah. I wouldn't teach them RE, I wouldn't teach them PSE, I wouldn't teach them that. I'd teach them business. Because they're entrepreneurs.
I
believe in it.
Yeah, I do think the education system will change in time.
We'll have to wrap it up there, because I'm getting passionate about teaching kids in education.
I do think there's probably a second podcast in this. I might take the podcast mobile in the future, so catch up with you again, or if you're ever up in the north, we should do a second one. I'll get the wife on. But
Joe would be a good one.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But mate, I'm going to try and wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining me.
You'll have to.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
It's done. Thank you.
Perfect.